Oh yeah, wow. Are we live? Maybe we're live. We're not Memorex. For those of you out there who remember magnetic tape, it was on like cassette things you put in. People who were born in the 70s and 71, like me, would know that stuff. Anyway, here we are, riffing with Ryan. Ryan's me, Ryan Erickson. I am here with at least one guest today who as if you've been following me for the past little bit, I'm so excited to have her here. Um, Nisha Joshi, and I will bring her on the stage right now. You are here? Are you here?
I am right here. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Nisha. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we've got a topic on the board, but I would love to hear a little bit. Okay. So I do a couple things. I'll either say who you are in a word, 2
All
words.
right.
Which
All
I think
right.
let's do that one. So Nisha Joshi in 2 words, and go.
Pathfinder. Yeah, I'll go for Pathfinder. I don't know if that's 1 word or 2. Maybe if it's 1, um, people that know me describe me as enthusiastic. So let's go with that.
Enthusiastic Pathfinder. Okay.
Mm.
Enthusiastic Pathfinder. So that means we might be on a path today,
We
potentially.
might be. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So the topic, as we met before, I still can't believe that it's been so long and that we're actually here, kind of in this
I
space,
know.
actually talking. So in our first conversation that we had, getting back together, this issue of culture came up. I know that's alive with you, this work
Mm.
that you're doing, and coming from the agile space, whatever that is now, and what it deems to be. This topic of, that was on the board, I didn't have on the board now. Are agilists, equipped to influence culture? Okay, so
Mm.
that was how that came for you. I'd like to hear what that means for you, and then maybe I'll come back in some way about that. So
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because I've been pondering this for a while. And I remember when you and I first spoke, we chatted about how sometimes, as agilists, and by that I mean people who apply the agile principles to help teams, leaders, and organizations, right, deliver value and collaborate better. And I I class myself as that person. I've trained in that area. I've worked with teams in that fashion. And often in doing so, I'm a recipient. And I don't like feeling that way. I'm a recipient of certain systemic issues, certain things that my teams have to experience that either block them delivering value, block decision making when they start touching interactions with others. And so I invested in myself over time in other skills. So, like facilitation, better collaboration techniques, and things like that, and I continue to do so.
Mhm.
And the reason why I do it is because I believe there's so much more as agilists that we can tap into to influence that intricate systemic thing that we label as culture, which is really that there's an intricacy about it because it's that web of behaviors, those norms, those decision making things, the unexpressed decision making and methods in which that happens, patterns that underlie those values and those principles that are we often find in company literature, right? And policies, which let's be honest, like if I join an organization, I do not take out that policy, dust it off, and read it after 5 years to figure out why I'm getting systemic blockages. I won't do that. So this is my reasoning. Sorry, go on.
No. So that's just like, so that's why everything's messed up. It's all in here in the manual.
No, it never is.
We're not
Yeah,
following. We here at this place we're not following the rules. So of course that has to
right,
be it. And how do you fix that? How do you? Well,
right.
easy. You punish the people who don't follow the rules, and you reward the people who do. So
And then you end up with a
That's
dictatorship.
that's exactly how it works, right? You've seen that.
So that got me thinking, and that
Mm.
got me entering this open space with an open mind and an open heart to really discuss this, because I see some amazing people that I know within my network, whatever we label this network, whether we call it an agile space, whether we call it an agile community, whatever. I see good agilists out there that are doing the same. I can name them. In fact, I was talking to Charles Louis the other day
Mm.
and catching up with him.
Charlot de Mer. So
Charles-Louis Demer, and he's doing exactly the same.
yeah,
Francis Lallerman, Tobias Mayer, all learning
yeah.
different techniques, different ways in which they can tap in to that systemic whole to make that experience of delivering value better.
Mm.
And really, that is the crux of it. And that's why I come to this space with that question. And yeah, I'm aware that there may be agilists that want to be stuck at team level and go, right, do you know what? This is fine for me. But I'm questioning, is that fine? And can you make a better influence and therefore improve yourself as a better collaborator, as a better partner for teams to deliver value to businesses and to those people in a more humane way? So yeah, that's why I'm here. I know there's a lot to unpack there, but you said let me have it in a way, so I'll let you have it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that solo.
Sorry.
No, that's the point here. So, again, there's a lot there. So at the very tail end, talked about is it's okay. It's not enough to be that was the feeling I got. There's more. There's
Yeah, there's
more.
more.
When you're talking about influence, you're talking about influence beyond this lovely group of people that you've come to know and be with and help.
Mm.
And again, I've been thinking about this as well in terms of we're talking about the system, the teams within the system, and that what is my role as I was hired to do something that was related to agile coaching and helping teams uncover better ways of developing software ostensibly and doing it better by doing it and doing it with them, right?
Right.
So this is uh, the idea of being better in that group, in that mixed group of folks, and better in there, and having that better emanate to others and be influential, and that the others, that the teams within teams, and the togetherness of all the folks
Right.
that put stuff together to give with love to the world at large. So there's what is the better that I seek to make because I'm integrated with this ensemble, or is the better that I seek to make to step outside and to be this connecting tissue, right?
Mm.
So I mean, there's no one answer, of course. I mean, but
Of course not.
it's all about it's always all about the context, right?
Mm.
So it, the and the idea of the agilist, so that the role of that's kind of come from, are you a scrum master, are you an agile coach, you know about this stuff. Hiring manager has hired you, Nisha,
Mm.
to help all these folks here in this giant organization deliver value and do it in this more humane way. Okay. um and and the and it's a mushy role, right? Agilist is kind of a mushy role that just kind of popped up, and like you said, it's that. What does it mean to you? Like, what is an Agilist, right? It's
Mm.
just someone who knows the 4 and 12, who's aware of the hows of certain practices and as instruments, shall we say, to
Yeah.
to play in there. And okay, so I've learned all this wonderful stuff. So is it you and I and the other individuals we mentioned, and the secret person in the background?
Oh yes, yes, that very
Um,
lovely secret person who we will reveal. Yes.
we will reveal later. But so we have these tools and these things that we do together, and that okay, I've seen the light. I've seen the light, and I deeply I love these people. I love this place. I feel like I now have tools to help them,
Hmm.
and in the use of those tools, it's easy to fall in love with the tools.
Oh,
And
tell me about it. Yes.
right. So how do you as okay, I'm an Agilist. I love all this stuff. I feel like I'm in community with people. I have all these folks who've also seen the light.
Hmm.
And how do we bring the light? And then there may be some people who, you know, that light's not my light, So that's the dance you do. So how are you thinking now? Again, knowing what we talked about and how you want to dance with culture
Hmm.
to so what is your first move? What is your
I
first
love
move?
this. I love this. I love the dancing with the culture because do you know what? That's exactly what it is. You cannot dance with a dance partner who's standing still. You can't say to me, Nisha, I want you to run the London Marathon, but you can't use the upper part of your body. How is that? Like that's not going to happen, is it? Right? So so you work with the parts of a system that are changeable. And for that, you got to get outside of your team. So you have to be someone that is that connecting tissue that you so nicely described it earlier. Because when you were saying that, the thoughts that were coming into my mind were flashbacks from previous roles where I had to lift myself out of the team. I had to network within the organization. I had to take and grab virtual coffee breaks with stakeholders even before I realized my team were going to need them. As a web of people, I needed to speak to.
How did
And
you know? How did you know at that point? What was the
because you make the first move. Like, for example, I said, you come to me and you say, we're in the same organization, right? And you say, you're part of an editorial team. And tomorrow you say, hey, Nisha, you know what? We're going to have to invest in a new fabrication system for our editorial team, for example, to stitch the content together. Ours is legacy. It needs to be replaced. Who do I need to talk to around here? Then I would put you in touch with the right people that have the right know how, maybe the CTO to start off with, maybe a head of delivery or a head of development, depending on the type of organization that you would need to speak to. That I could put you in touch with people who'd worked in that area before in other organizations. So by taking that first step, and yeah, you can get rejection. I don't have enough time to speak to you, kind of talk. It's fine. You gotta have a level of asbestos. My mum calls it asbestos fingers when she flips the rotis on the pan, right? And I always say that to
Mm,
her, like she does it without prongs, without anything. You gotta have that resiliency about you to say, okay,
mm.
I need to try and start making these first steps. Who do I speak to around this organization who's gonna have a stake in what I'm delivering? And soon enough, someone will say to you, you need to speak to that person because they're interesting and they're looking at this. There might be something personal that you're looking into to grow your skill set outside of work. There's a great facilitator in such and such team. There's a great person over there who does improv at the weekend, which will really help you facilitate things with your team and bring in good exercises. Hey, why don't you go speak to that person? And by doing that, you're developing your web of influence. So you're not under any illusion. I think we said this when you and I first met, and we really riffed on this. And we were like, I wish we recorded this session. You were, you're placing yourself in that space of a person who's like, I'm a custodian of this culture. I don't own it for crying out loud, but I can contribute my positive waves, my positive strands that I'm going to weave in this systemic web and try to understand people that are outside of the team. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it brings up something. I'm not questions. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what it brings up for me
Yeah.
is a conversation in this space, this industry about, well, you don't have the software development knowledge, and you're not helping teams navigate delivering software better. So,
Hmm.
this is, what you're doing, and this I'm going to speak as say someone in the field. You don't have the work domain expertise to be able to help my team in this way, but you're talking about helping teams and teams of teams, and this
Yeah.
whole ecosystem of what it is to deliver value,
Yeah.
and what that means. So just, and I want you to come back in there, but
Yeah. Of
but I
course.
I think what's happening, or at least maybe what I want to happen, because if I'm not going to, if I don't have the respect of a team as a scrum master, say, or agile coach or whatever, I come with that, then that's not my role. Is to be on the software side. That the role that you're talking about, this connector, this sensor of organizational dynamics, right? That kind of, you're stewarding the humanity to say, ooh, how are we together? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? We're doing, and so that's what I felt from that, and I want to hear what that brought up for you there.
Yeah. So I focused on that because of the work that I'm doing at the moment. However, to make sure that I say what's truly in my heart about this role, it is not just about that connector. So I'll give you an example, and then there's a couple of examples where I sensed, I said to you, and then again, we talked about this when we first met. What is the first time that you've experienced? Can you remember what the first time is that you experienced a company culture? What did that feel like to you? Was it someone setting aside time to teach you something? Was it people talking over each other in a meeting? What was it? My examples of being a domain expert come from some of my first experiences of culture. So I worked for a broadcasting company, right? within within the UK, and I knew nothing about ad sales. So those ad sales, and I know there's a lot of sensationalism in the US about how much those ad sales spots actually go for. All the same here in the UK. They're pretty pricey bits of airtime that are worth a lot to a lot of these broadcasting companies. I didn't know what the algorithms were in the systems, how it worked, how you work with agencies. I was taken on as a delivery manager in that role. And when I first started, I was recruited for the skills that I had and my passion. When I said I didn't have any idea about what ad sales truly was in terms of a business sense, I was told, don't worry, come and join us. We're going to teach you. I worked for a legal services company, and that way I became an expert. I could help the teams. Same thing in a legal services company. My background is in software delivery, and before I joined, I was in a not for profit, and before that, Air Express, for one of the biggest logistics and supply chain carriers in the world. No way did I know anything about the legal world. Same thing. My colleague sat next to me and said, "We're recruiting you for your skills. Come sit with us. We will teach you about legislation, about citations, about historical legislation, about what it means to practitioners to see that information laid out in front of them." So yeah, it's really, really important. But this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I've had those salt of the earth people sit down and go, do you know what? You don't know it? Come sit with me, I'll teach you. And then I've developed that domain expertise and then become a true person of value to that team. So then I can become that better sensor. I've had my growth, and I've definitely had my growth areas. So you're not becoming that connective tissue overnight, but it's nice to have that in your sights.
There's so many things that came up for me that, again, imagining you going through those changes in how you engage in different ways with different teams in different places, and just and this is there's one thing to talk about. This is culture, right? So I'm in charge of culture, and that's this. But what you're doing, what you described to me, I think is the real where the rubber hits the road or whatever, or where the roti hit the pan or whatever.
Yeah.
It's you're living that
Yes.
what is the culture, and again, if you know me, those who know that I'm like a Seth Godin fan, real big, and the way Seth describes the culture, and there are a couple of
Mm.
folks who describe it similarly. People like us do things like this,
Mm.
and that so the people like us, that I am with you, you are with me. I feel a sense of affiliation with you, a sense of belonging, okay? And the
Mm.
way we do things around here, this is how we. So when someone new comes into our team, our group, we teach. We
Mm.
we accept them, and we respect why they're here, and create this bonding. This people like us do things like this, and this is who we are. This is that identity piece.
Mm.
And I think that definition of culture really hits me, because talking about it doesn't matter. What matters is the doing, and is, dare I say, the delivery. That's the space for delivery, right? It's the delivery space, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I see. I love that connection to our podcast. Yes, Sharon will be loving you for that as well. But yeah, I agree. But then, do you know what? There's also another complex side to it. It's, are we oversimplifying it? It's a beautiful and warm feeling, like this is the way we do things here, and I have an affiliation. I'm going to bring you in, right? And that's a beautiful thing. But then I also think that there is a lot more complexity around that, and that we got to be careful to not there's a comfort, and there's a great comfort in that, but to not let that comfort blind us to other things in other areas of the organization. So to still remain objective, because that's what's going to help you, because there'll be parts of the organization that won't be working so well. There'll be parts of the organization that you will start touching and tapping onto and go, oh, I didn't expect that response, because hey, everyone in my part of the organization is wonderful. So it's that kind of thing. Like, that comfort shouldn't give you the rose tinted glasses. It should, you need to remain objective, I believe, as an agilist.
This whole observation, this stance of observation, right?
Yes,
So this is
exactly.
to be able to observe and reflect. And you went through Kishinkatsu, I think you did.
No, I
Possibly. No.
didn't. It's on my list, but it's not Bicablo as like, but it's like gone over the. It's more prioritized higher on my list. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is again to Charlouis and Francis. This person wants to do it. The reason I bring that up is about this idea of the participant observer.
Yeah.
And that as an observer of the system, and you are part of it. And this is, and that the system changes because it's being observed. And there's some interesting organizational development kind of things that related to self-organizing teams, that there's the people who work together and who are engaged together. Happy workers are better workers, and there was an observer in that environment to take the information and say, but what really happened behind the scenes is that they were just pretending to be happy because there was an observer. So this is something, again, it's that second level of observation. Okay, so know I'm here, and my job is to sense and be here and observe. It's not as a distant observer, right? So this is the Kishinketsu kind of thing, that one of the 10 principles is this being to facilitate, and also be a I call it a participator, a facilitator in that system. So that's the other thing that came up for me when we're talking about, okay, the rose-colored glasses. Again, I certainly fall in that kind of wishing to have network-based, hierarchically flipped kind of network organization. That kind of stuff is passion, but you're talking about the realism, the
Yeah.
realistic nature of there being silos, and there being folks who are measuring and managing silos, and that as you observe and intervene in that system, you knock on the door of the silo, and that no, go away,
Mm.
right? And then you knock over here, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll listen to you, and then okay, what do I do with that? How do I, as an Agilist who's learned these practices and these kinds of things, what is a kind of space that I can create that invites both of these folks to come in and be together, and kind of to see each other, right? To see and understand. I mean, that's.
I will talk to you about this. So it's a very personal story. I was recently invited by a very good friend of mine who's involved in the PMO and the program kind of directorship for fintech company, and they were experiencing some huge barriers to delivery. It's a massive program, and they brought me in and say, Nisha, we detect some elements here of culture that we really need to allow people to talk about, because this organization is growing. We've got this massive program and there's all eyes on it. I was so fortunate that the CEO kind of embraced me when I came through the doors in that organization and said to me, I'm going to allow you to create that space. Not only am I going to allow you to create this space for these people, but what I'm going to do is nominate some amazing culture champions in the organization, people who I would believe are really bought in to the organization. There are some who have displayed some resistance, and for good reason, before. There are some with more questioning minds than others. But Nisha, speak to them. Get them together, speak to them, get a reading on how they feel the culture needs to evolve. And so it took me over like the period of about 3 months to carry out interviews, then bring everybody together, do workshops, have them contribute the data around where they saw their culture today and where they saw it moving to, against all the different levers. So strategy, process, norms, for example, their vision, their principles in the organization. And this is where I was invited. So how I would do that is start with the everyday conversations, because the intention that you have to have those everyday conversations that say something about your culture matters. So we started off in this exercise, and I remember I wanted to do things really well for this organization. And I wasn't part of the Kisho Tenketsu cohort. So what do? I ring my friend Charlouis, and I'm like, Charlouis, I'm thinking of facilitating these sessions in this way. Can you mentor me to make sure that I get the best out of these guys? And I'm holding my stance as a facilitator with that level of openness. So the messages that need to go back from the people go back to the C-suite around what they need to hear. And he helped me. He helped me I had an idea of a facilitation flow. He helped me embellish it, asked me some hard questions. And when I brought those people, let me tell you, I brought those teams into that session we were across about 7 countries in the end. Different time zones. I was sitting here in my loft room it wasn't a wise decision, this one, doing Sydney and New York together. So it was really late night. Yeah, I know, right? Really late night for me. I'm facilitator. I'm going to pull the short straw, and there are people that were willing to do it.
Take one for the team, right?
Right. So the first sponge exercise we had in that facilitation was not icebreakers straight away. What it actually was we were putting people into groups. So we put people into groups, and we asked them to share their stories, their experiences of workplace culture. What was the first time that you experienced workplace culture, and what did that feel like for you? And trust me, these guys did not want to come out of those sessions, because that's the first time they had to talk about it. That was part of their feedback they gave us. So this is evidence, like real evidence from me to say that out of regard, and think about all the different cultures across the organization. There were organizations in Singapore, there were organizations here in the UK, there's France, there was Germany, for example. You know, as I said, there's New York, there was Australia, and yeah, US as well. So you're like, how many different cultures are you touching? And what do people value the most from it? The most overwhelming feedback that came back from all of those teams was, Nisha, we need these sessions, not just annually, but we need them regularly. And this is the first step in great employee engagement. And what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
Whoa, this totally falls into another one of the big parts of my personal practices around open space technology, right?
Yeah,
Just having
yeah,
these
yeah.
very, very large, again, whole group processes. You know, there are many
Right.
whole group processes, you know, the World Cafe and, you know, the appreciative inquiry in some ways, but this idea of that there is an invitation from sponsorship. Let's talk about the CEO. I think maybe there's a little bit of stuff that they're particular influencers, right? So influential people in the culture, that they may not be in managerial authority. They may just have this kind of reputational authority that these folks are influencers. So work with them and kind of get a sense for the norm, and that feeds into this. Okay, what's the real burning issue? And it's not about solving this with the 2 or 3 folks. It's about bringing as many folks as who can make it into you know, this. Again, I'm not sure how with Zoom or whatever we can do it across continents, but the idea of coming together and mixing without this is our agenda, right? We're going to do this, and we're going to do this in this way.
Yes.
And you thou shalt break the ice with each other, you know, and all this is kind of, so it sounds to me like you had the sense of, okay, everybody, in maybe I'm intuiting that or imposing my own thing on it, but it's let's loosen up from time a little bit. Let's loosen up from the expectation. Yeah.
That is exactly the feeling that was pervasive throughout those workshops, because I created it together with them, right? Yeah.
Yeah. With the withness. Yeah, this is a really cool thing. You think witness, but you know, there's withness. And it's like, Guy brought that term to me so long ago. I'm like, oh, that's such a wonderful term, withness. You know,
withness. I like it.
Withness,
you should make more of that. You should make more of that. Yeah.
Make more withness. Oh,
yeah.
Goodness gracious, a wonderful story. And I would to make sure he doesn't feel lonely, I'm wondering if we bring our special guest to the screen. Are you okay with that?
Please. I am. Yes, please.
All right. To the stage we now bring. Who is that? Oh my God.
There you go. Hello.
Frankie Bianchi, everybody. Francesco.
Yay.
Hi.
Hey. So what are you feeling from where we've gone today? Do you have anything that you'd like to reflect to us based on how we've been going today? And then we can get into that wonderful thing above your head.
That thing there. I'm taking away a lot of things. The last one that I jotted down is witness.
Yeah.
And I think it's the perfect word to capture what I was thinking about. Nisha, while you were going through your experiment, your exercise, not experiment, your activity. It's also experimental because you tried new techniques, you talk to a mentor, which is fantastic. Having the humbleness to recognize that it's useful to talk to someone else that can help you develop aspects of your practice that you are already confident about, but they can help you stretch in even more by bringing a second pair of eyes. So I admire what you did there. Most people would just say, yeah, I can handle it. I'm going to do a perfect job. You could
No.
have, but you went for advice, which is amazing. And I was thinking how something so simple doesn't mean easy. It's simple as in, you can explain it briefly, could be incredibly empowering for all those people who are usually not listened to.
Exactly.
I was thinking, who's the best person to go to if I want to know what's the culture about? I loved your question. I'm going to use it, and I'm probably going to steal the idea of the activity to ask people about the question. But I was thinking, just go to the last person who has been hired in the company and ask them to walk you through their first hour in the company. That's what culture is about.
That's gold. That is gold. Yes. Yeah.
Do you have your laptop? Yes. No. Did they welcome you in the building, or did you just have to walk in and wait for the manager to arrive half an hour later? There was something. Doesn't have to be expensive. There was something personal on your desk. Was there a desk for you if you are in the office? If you are remote, was there something to welcome you, to celebrate your special moment? Will you remember it with joy or with indifference or
Yeah.
frustration or what?
Yeah. And immediately we're thinking about our experiences there, aren't we? Immediately, Ryan, you and I are probably thinking, oh, yeah, that was a great company. Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't such a good experience. And I left 3 months later. I wonder why. Yeah.
And of course, first impression can be fixed, but very, very, very often, how I think I've changed company or contracts at least 30 years in my career, 30 times in my career so far. And probably 25 times I could tell you how my career in that specific gig or company would have been at the end of day one, usually at the end of the first couple of hours.
Right.
Why? So, this really brings me into, I think, your current work, Frankie, because I think what I've heard and witnessed to a certain extent is that that younger generations, I've heard stories about this, that they're coming into a workplace where they don't meet anybody in person at all. And this human connection is not there. So hey, we're going to ship you a laptop, we're going to ship you some instructions, and you're going to go have a meeting with somebody there, and whatever, you'll figure it out. We'll have a Zoom meeting in 2 hours, and then it's sitting at home and then blank and then looking at a blank screen, and that's got to be so psychologically harmful, it's to anybody really, but if your first experience with as a young worker, it's like, is this what working life is like? I don't want any part of that. So how do you, this idea of learning culture and experiencing culture in this way, in this moment, for a younger generation, what are your thoughts about that, and what can we do as rising elders in this space, to help and guide and be supportive?
Sorry, you said elder. I was going to make a joke, but I'm turning elder. Not wise, just elder. It's just a biological thing. I think the answer is in something you said before, is what I would do is, instead of assigning a buddy or just a buddy on day one, assign a mentor, someone who wants to be there and who can help you connecting with the stakeholders that you don't yet know that you're going to need. I'm going to encourage you to get out of your comfort zone. So all the things you described before, I think they are even more important for someone who's starting, because probably you don't have the confidence to go to shall we, if you're listening to this, and ask for advice, because you don't know the shall we exists yet, probably, sadly. And so someone who can guide you. What do you think?
Can I comment on that one again with an experience? I love this one because I don't have it with me right now. I use it as my running bottle. But what an organization that I joined, so and digital, I joined them. They probably won't mind me talking about this because it's amazingly positive, right? So I joined them a few years ago and not with them anymore. But one of the things that they did was, along with the laptop, they asked me the same question that Ryan asked me when we opened up this session. How would you describe yourself, and how would the people that know you well, the most, really, really well, describe you? So I obviously chose the word Pathfinder. They gave me a running bottle with it, and a running water bottle with it. And I use that to this day. It comes with me. I'm no longer with that company, but their brand is with me. The impression they left with me was with me. And another thing that I would definitely say is, along with the mentorship, you need someone to go ahead of you to champion you sometimes, even before you've arrived. And so one of my, same in the broadcast company that I was talking to you about, that I was working with, my manager who hired me would go and speak to the stakeholders and say, hey, we've got a wonderful delivery manager coming. The delivery manager, these are their skills. I know you're going to love meeting her. This is why. Now, how long does it take, Francesca and Ryan, how long does it take to just say those few sentences to someone to really anticipate your arrival? It doesn't take a lot of effort, does it? But it does so much good.
It does, 100%. It takes, I think it doesn't take much if you have it. But if you are running on fumes all the time,
yes,
and you're prioritizing constantly your energies, it's very hard to remember that there's someone out there who needs your spare energies, which you don't have because you don't have them for yourself, not to even do the things that will help you survive in the organization. Then you can't be there for the others.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have empathy for that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I fear with the current trends of layoff that are, not even making the headlines anymore, because there's more money, there's more presidents that are taking the spotlight, but also because there have been so many layoffs that who cares anymore. The situation is still not too grim, but it's going in that direction. And the more we reduce the workforce, the work is not disappearing. If anything, is increasing, unless AI really takes over. But for now, it's probably keeping stable. If you remove the workforce, that means more workload on the people. I have not seen processes improving enough to say that we've streamlined the process, and you can consider that 60% of the waste is gone. If people are getting more and more into the hamster wheel and they need to run and they have no spare capacity of time, of energy, of thinking time, I am sorry for the people who are joining the workforce today. They're never going to find someone compassionate like you who can invite them with a question, who can champion them in the organization, who can send them a water bottle or whatever is the equivalent avatar for them.
This brings up maybe a future focused thing. Well, we are all kind of being future focused, but that these skills, these tools that we're talking about, that traditionally they have been owned and deployed by different organizations than the software organizations that we've all come up. At least I know I came up through, and I think each of us here, Nisha, you were saying, and that the software tower is where Agilists are put, in project management. Yeah. And I think, Frankie, you came from the original domain of software development, I think, also.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm not out of school here, but this idea of showing, and you said empathy here too, right? Empathy is a skill that is important to use it very carefully, because it's possible to manipulate with empathy, right? To fake it and say, oh, I know what you're saying. So I know how you feel, and it's like, do you really? Do I trust you enough to to trust your empathy. But if you're skilled at it, you can misuse it. But what I would wonder, and I think which is that the HR tower. Oh God, I hate this tower thing. But the HR domain, these folks in there, that they have owned this for many years. That you talk about engagement. Oh, that's HR's responsibility, or giving folks this good feeling of onboarding and this employee training. I mean, and it's not education; it's training. And you like shove all the policy in them, and then wind them up and let them go like little machines, right?
God, I'm already getting tired thinking about that. Like, oh boy.
But so where did these skills, these human skills, like the individuals' interactions over process and tools, the first value, we are uncovering better ways, and all this stuff. And yeah, maybe some of us, I think I have over-indexed a little bit towards this human side. But you know what? I think those are the skills, those are the tools, those are the instruments that, again, were owned elsewhere. I think as I don't know, Agilist humanists, maybe, that to be able to play in a different part of the organization and do this connecting, do this feeling, sensing, understanding, and with respect for the technical work, I think that to me is where some of these Agile coaches that are getting kicked out, and some of the Scrum Masters are saying, "Oh, we don't need a Scrum Master anymore. You have no idea how to develop software. You don't know what I know." But this kind of disrespect, right? So there's that feeling of disrespect. Well, you know what? Then my practice as a humanist, as a witnesser, or a person of togetherness, that there is a practice elsewhere in the organization. I think new practices, and that maybe that HR is a place where that how do you influence the culture of an organization? Do you do it from software going out or going up? Or do you do it from a place that already has a responsibility for stewarding culture in the HR leadership domain? So I think, to me, that what we're talking about here today is that it is about extending, in a traditional organization, into other domains where our humanness and our understanding of how humanness plays into delivery, how that helps in a wider domain, not just in software development.
I agree with you.
So there's hope for the Agile coaches out there. There's hope for the Scrum Masters who maybe seek to grow those skills in other ways too.
Yeah, I think so. There definitely is that hope, but there's not, that doesn't take away from the skills, the discipline, the need to deliver value, so that not just for your own career, so you can land jobs out there, but so that for your own satisfaction. Everyone loves a good meal and loves a great the great level of satisfaction after achievement, or after eating something that's delicious and wonderful and that you've served, with your own hands or with your team. Right? Everyone loves that. So I would say it's just as important. Change the parts of the system that are changeable. And as a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, figure out what that is. Deliver, understand the domain, understand your team, but do that sensing around the organization that you talked about, and cultivate that witness where you can. This is not idealizing the role. It's saying change what you can change, or influence what you can influence. And, you'll never change things on your own. You always change in partnership. You will always change in partnership. Like, you and Frankie will know in organizations, have you ever achieved change just by yourself? Like, you will always change in partnership.
Go where you're wanted. I think that's part of it too. And this idea of this change, that people don't want to be changed. And that I read this, how much I read, and that falls and believes that which there's a lot of talk about resistance to change, and that this has become a term in the meme or whatever. But people don't really resist change. I would, and I'll pause that. It's to resist coercion. Right. So this idea of, yes, Frankie, that you're going to change. This is change for you, and this is going to be good for you. So you're going to change. Change is happening here. You gotta buy in. You got to be on the bus. You got to be on the board, man. So change or else, and I think that's in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, that idea of force is misinterpreted by the person who's seeking to create change, maybe in from a heartful place, and that. So yes, but realizing that when someone comes back at you and has this kind of skepticism, or you view it as resistance, well, what is that really? So resistance is just this high level abstract term. What's behind it? Who is behind that? And what is it that they're they're resisting in me? Why do I feel that? Why is that force coming back at me? What is it? And to seek into it, and okay, now that I've sought to understand you, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to push back at you. I'm going to open my hands and say, all right, tell me the story. So what is your story? Where is this coming from? And that's slow. And that's not efficient. That kind of relationship is inefficient. And I think that's the beauty of it, that it is inefficient, but is so effective and so worthy of bonding and this witness, the humanness, and that I think that's part of the learning of this. What has Agile taught us? What has the manifesto taught us as practitioners? And I think it's and what it was Agile and change. I mean, I'm kind of going two different places here, so I know you stop, Ryan, stop it. But I think that, I don't know, if you want to make change, it is important to have understanding. And it's so critical that I'm not going to change you, but by being with you and showing understanding and caring and love and support, that we can influence this change together. That we can be together with you and me, you, me, and Frankie, you, me, Frankie, and Sharon, or all of us together. I mean, I think that's the goal, and I think that's the calling. At least I know it is for me, and maybe it's there for you as well. I'm gonna take a drink.
You take that drink. What are your feelings, Frankie? Go on.
I was wondering if in that drink it's pure water or tea, or there's maybe some spice.
I would have had coffee, but no. I'm a teetotaler.
Okay, because you went very deep there. You went very deep, my friend.
Yeah, it was quite deep. Yes.
Yes, to all the things you said. There's a thought that we covered a while ago that I'm still lingering in the background of my head, and it's about partnering. So we said we can't change something by ourselves. Now I was looking, and at the top of our screen, there's a lovely Riffing with Nisha Joshi, Are Agilists Equipped to Influence Culture? Now, influence comes same roots of influenza. There's a small, is that a bacteria or a virus? It's a tiny, tiny, tiny thing that can bring a big man, like I'm pretty big in size and tall and weight, mostly weight, and down to their knee very, very easily. And I think if we act in the right way, we can do that. It's not about bringing organizations to their knees, but we can really, really change them, no matter the size. But to do that, we need to partner.
That's it.
And I think we are missing an easy trick. You didn't say anything wrong, Ryan, before, but when you mention HR, I think we often dismiss their role. We demonize them and like them legal, procurement, and all the other supporting functions. And instead, we don't realize that very often they do the job that no one else wants to do. Because if as a company, and today I read about another company doing that, I want to offshore to companies with lower salaries or lower daily rates. How can I expect that then the movement to change the culture and to self-define the culture comes from a provider which is 5, 10, 15 time zones away from me? So you need someone who, how do you say, raises as a guardian, as a custodian of the culture. And unfortunately, that becomes a tower. And we see that as they've taken the power away from us, but in a way, they're trying to keep the light alive. So I think it's up to people like us to, often the connector, to come in and recognize who's withholding the power and who instead is trying to protect it, and go and help them spreading the small flames across the boundaries that they cannot reach.
It's really beautiful. Can I riff on what you just said there around that word protector? So just to connect, because I feel like I'm in the middle now, and I have that visual pressure of connecting the two things that both of you have said. And what right? So
right, I'll move you. There we go.
Oh no! I'm in there. I've got focus. No, I wanted like the Dallas screens, man. You remember the old way the Dallas screens used to work? You remember that soap, the American?
Oh, Dallas. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, geez.
The Dallas screens that would come down, and each of the characters would be presented just like we are in columns right now. Do you remember that? I'm totally revealing my age from the 80s. Sorry, but I used to watch that program. You and me both, right? Yeah. So. Okay, so to connect what you guys were saying, protecting, like, so Frankie's saying protecting, and you're talking about resistance. And what I use when I receive that resistance to either change or an idea or an initiative, I use those questions around this person or these people that are resisting. What are they protecting? Or what are they alerting me to? Because very often in organizations, people, pardon me, how many times have you heard it, right? Oh, Nisha, no, don't go down that route. I've seen this done before, or there's a consultancy that's come in and done this before, and it never works around here. This will never work because we've seen, oh, this has happened again. What they're trying to, what is that sentiment behind there? What are they trying to communicate to you when they say it? And I usually find it's one of the two. They're either protecting something, protecting you in some cases, or they're alerting you to something. And in which case, that resistance then becomes a gift because it tells you whether something is worth pursuing or worth changing, or you as facilitators, where resistance becomes sweeter is when you co-create. Because when people can feel their fingerprints on a change, they're less likely to resist it. So it's like, come, like, let's co-create something, come, because I want you to feel your fingerprints on this. And what does that look like? Let me carve it out with you,
Nothing engages like making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what you're talking about. That it's making together, or and oh my goodness. Oh. I love these silences.
I love wondering where you're going in these silences. I'm looking at you. like, I want to say, Ryan, where you gone? Where you gone, man? Where you gone? Where you traveling to? Like,
I'm
where you
wondering, is it
I
my
like
eyes being closed? Maybe it's that.
No, that's okay. I like you're contemplating it, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the light. It was gray and dark here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and now the light has come, and I saw the light. A good old Todd Rundgren song. So I think I was just bathing in this idea of showing showing people again this loving care of that resistance is a gift, and that that fear of this, and that this is also a keto, I think, comes in. That's something I'd heard from that you're using that energy to help make something happen. There's a reason that energy is there, and that's part of the system. That's there, and you see that in many places. And again, this in all the silos and all the I don't want to give up what I had, so well. And okay, great, you're holding on to that, so let's dive into that way, right? And I want to know more. I want to dive into that resistance and give me that gift. I'm going to bathe in that gift of it. and I think, and this is part of this tension, so that to be more human with folks, you got to be able to deal with that tension. And that's the courage, right? It's the courage, respect, and that kind of that those pieces of Scrum, which are close to my heart, is that and where I want to go here, and then kind of ask the question. I think I asked Frankie this last question last time, so he gets a pass on it. But what I'm left with, what you brought up for me, is something that came up, that how can you hate someone whose story you know? How can you really, when you know someone's story and you feel it and you hear it, how could you even think about forcing anything on them? How do you think about that? And this is what's coming up to me from where you're going in this. Now, what does it take to have influence on someone without influencing them? I'm not going to influence you. I am going to understand in this, and we're going to create this invitation in this space for us to dive into together, to create and be together, and that's where the change comes from. That's we're deciding to dive in there together, I think. Another drink for me, and is at this place in the program, that's however long we are in. I'm not even going to look at the time. That Nisha, I will ask you a question. I'm going to give Frankie a yellow card, and I'm going to put Frankie on the bench for a moment. So thank you for hanging in there for a bit, and I'm gonna pop something on Nisha. Hey, I'll come back later. So okay, so in the spirit of this place, what I often ask, and I try to ask it a different way, is if you think of a conversation that has reputational risk, right? Maybe it's in this way of culture that there is danger in that conversation, that if I engage in that conversation, I am risking something, right? And I'm risking shame. I'm risking all this stuff by going into a conversation I call it dangerous, right? So if you think about that kind of conversation in the work that you're doing now, who would you invite to a dangerous conversation, and what would be the question you would ask to invite them into that conversation?
Oh, it's such a juicy and really good question. If there's reputational risk, and that reputational risk would be on me to have that conversation. Is that right?
Whoever,
Am I interpreting that correctly?
whoever you're inviting,
Oh,
the
so
participant.
there's a
Well, if you want
reputational
to be in
risk.
the conversation too, I mean, it's that the conversation is the risk, right? So you're in it, or maybe this is a conversation you want to see happen. Who would I invite into that conversation? What do I want to? I want to have a conversation that hasn't happened, that needs to happen. I want to happen, right?
It all depends on context. It all depends on context. And the reason is, if it's a dangerous conversation that is going to leave either party feeling vulnerable, or they've shared something that's going to present a professional risk to them, then I would seek advice first. And I would seek advice either from a coach, I'd seek advice from an independent party first before going into that conversation. Mainly because I have a very protective streak in me for myself and for the other person. So if you're having a dangerous conversation, regardless, there should be certain parameters set around that conversation. And so whatever it is, there needs to be that level of comfort ahead of time, so that both parties know what they're getting into. And context is everything. Like, are you having a dangerous conversation because someone wants to really reveal something to you about the culture that they find specifically uncomfortable? But then there's a reputational risk of them bringing it to you, and they're not sure that once the subject is, or once the nature of the conversation lands on the ears of someone in the organization, how they're going to treat it. Like, yeah, I would seek advice from somebody that's independent, that's had these conversations previously, to advise based on context.
So this, I think Mandy hit that right on the head.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Sit by the fire, not in it. She's saying it's exactly what I would. Yeah, you don't like throw yourself in there with that other person. It is the classic. What do we call it? The oxygen mask on the airplane. Like, you want protection for you and the passenger next to you, right?
Yeah. So you're bringing back a part of this question that I've stopped asking, but I want to come back to it. But Frankie has to head out, so I'm going to bring him back in. His yellow card's over.
I love the footballing references. You're back, man. You're back, Teamy. You are back.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Are you going to go call a change, or what's the next?
Well, the next step is I know you had to check out, and I wanted to make sure you had a chance. Is there anything you wanted to say here today that you did not get the chance to say?
I'm grateful to both of you, because in a glimpse, you allowed me to crash the party, be part of this conversation. And I believe that's the type of behavior that we should embrace and role model more. And I think that, in an essence, is a representation of what you tried to describe, both of you, throughout the day. It's the ability to just widen the circle and welcome people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presence. All right, man. So Nisha, I will ask you the same question. See you later, Frankie.
Bye, Frankie.
And so there's two things that came up. One was, so don't just jump into the fire with, hey, there's fire, go in there. There's over there, it's public. You're going to risk the public shaming, right? So that I think is, so I didn't ask that fairly. So if there was and again, you don't have to answer this. I'm not gonna cut this, by the way, and to go through it again. Maybe this will be for next time. If there was a safe place for a dangerous conversation, what was the conversation to have in that safe place where you can bring folks who have that kind of the match and the gasoline kind of thing or whatever. But that was the invitation I wanted to give you that I didn't.
Sorry. Yeah. So
I
then maybe I
apologize.
misinterpreted it. I'm sorry, but
No. You interpreted it 100% correct.
Okay.
That context matters in that. So we can, if you want to go into that later. But the other thing, I want to make sure I ask you the same question I asked Frankie. Is there anything that you wanted to say today to whoever's out there and whoever will watch this and whatever now they are in, that you didn't get a chance to say today?
I would only reiterate that as an agile practitioner or an agilist, whatever you choose to call yourself, the importance of self-development, the continuous improvement in your own skills, and the importance of investing in yourself so you can develop the other core skills that I would, and I actively am trying to improve in myself. So facilitation, leadership influence, understanding those cultural elements around you, all the other aspects that you see on the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, don't take it for granted and go and dive deep without hesitation. Go and dive deep.
Go and dive deep. Fantastic. That's a wonderful place to leave it. Okay, so Nisha, yellow card to you. I'm going to put you in the box, and then I'll come back and sit on the bench with you and Frankie in a moment. So,
okay.
Thank you for your gift of being here. So,
Thank
oh my gosh, I got her. Jesus, thank you for the precious gift of your time and attention. I've been graced to be here with Frankie and Nisha and you as well. So, be more purple, right? Purple, and we'll hang out again soon. Bye.